Lithuania, the last of the free, independent Europeans still practicing their ancestral faith. At the start of the game, they find themselves under attack by the Teutonic Order, leading their other Crusader orders against us. First thing we're going to do is set them as a rival, and then we'll set another rival, I guess Rostov, might as well. Then we're going to use our cultural action to improve the opinion that the Polatskian culture has of us, to help with our cultural acceptance. That does bring us below our cultural capacity. We have a lot of cultures here that really like us, they're brother cultures, so accepting them is very easy and doesn't cost much on our cultural capacity. So we're going to accept a few of them right now. It's going to push us a little over our cultural capacity, but that's not a big deal. We're going to be converting quite a few people quite quickly, so it's a minor issue. We're going to rush down for expanded archives because we are going to go over our diplomatic capacity a little bit. We're then going to improve our relationship with Poland. We'd like them to stay on our side. When it comes to government reforms, we start with this reform here. It does decrease the estate power of all estates by 50%, which is excellent, as you can imagine. But it also decreases the estate's satisfaction, decreases our cabinet efficiency, and loses us a cabinet seat, which are all terrible. So we're going to switch that out. We're actually going to go for diplomatic traditions because, again, we're going to go over our diplomatic capacity and we need to do quite a bit of improving relations. Another thing we're going to do is we're going to change our language. We currently start with Lithuanian as our court language, but this gives us a malus because it's neither our religious language nor our common language. So all the estates lose 5 relation with us because of it. So instead, we're just going to switch back to our usual Baltic language, which gives us the benefit of being our religious language, which increases the happiness of the clerics and gives us a little boost to institution growth, which is pretty important in this early period. That will also give us the common language, which improves the opinion of the peasants and increases our cultural influence, which allows us to convert cultures a little faster. Now, we're going to hand out a few privileges. We're going to hand out common militias to the peasants. We're going to hand out building roads to the burghers, and then we're going to hand out expansionist zealotry to the clerics. Now, we need to hand out a few privileges to the nobles. We're going to give them elite councils, which is going to make it very easy to solve every parliament just by giving them what they want. Then we're going to grab offensive army doctrine and primacy of the nobility. We don't necessarily need them to beat the Teutons, but they do make it a bit easier. We're going to set our one cabinet action that we have to strengthen the government for now. We're going to gain our other cabinet seat fairly quickly. We're not going to use our second government reform. We're going to save it for the Renaissance. For our religious aspect, we have the generic pagan aspects, unfortunately, and we're going to choose what to grab. In a way, I think population growth is actually pretty important for Lithuania. We have quite a low population spread out over a large area. If we look at a lot of our provinces, you'll see there's basically around 10,000 people in each of them, and that's about it. Even our capital has only got 11,000 people in. So we're very much culturally and population-wise nowhere near our capacity. But the buff to population growth is so minimal, I don't really care about it. So instead we're going to worship the creator god for that little buff to prosperity. Prosperity always being excellent. Now we're going to set all of our vassals to support us. They're probably not going to, but it's the best we can do. We are going to tell them to attach to us, but as I said, they're probably not going to. We'll set our ruler as our general. He's pretty old, but he's also very good. He might just die the moment we unpause. If he does stay alive, though, he'll be very helpful with fighting the Teutons. One other thing that I almost forgot. We're going to bring down our cost of court a little, just so we're slightly in the positive, and then we're going to reduce our diplomatic spending to nothing, just to keep the costs down for a bit. We're going to use our extra government or cabinet seat to reduce war exhaustion. We start with quite a bit of it, and it's negatively impacting us. We definitely like to reduce it to 0 as fast as possible. Now, our strategy from dealing with the Teutons, essentially we have 2 strategies. Number 1, we kind of want to lure them into attacking us. With all of our bonuses, we can definitely defeat their normal standing army of around, I think, 1,500 regulars. Yep. So if we can lure them into attacking us, that would be excellent. That's not the perfect goal, though. The perfect goal would be for the Teutons to lose all their morale wandering around Lithuania, and then we just stack wipe them. Either way, we're going to focus on grabbing a lot of these little vassal stacks to start with. We do need to kill them all, and killing them will hopefully upset the Teutons enough that they make a move themselves. If we see any of our vassals wandering off and getting killed, we're just not going to help them. It's not worth it. There's the Teuton army. Because we are a pagan, we automatically have a little bit of attrition, so they're going to bleed out while they're in our country. Of course, we don't want to waste time bleeding them out. We want them to just run into us and die. But we'll have to wait for them to decide that is the correct course of action. So we're just going to keep an eye on them. We're going to kind of shadow them. We're going to make this into the German Vietnam. They're going to wander through our forests. We're going to shadow them and wait for the perfect chance to strike. Looks like they're going to pounce on these 3,000 or so men here. It's unfortunate, but it's not really our problem. We could have won that battle if we'd helped them, but we would have likely taken too many casualties, which isn't something we're into. After all is discussed, the goal is for them to all die fighting us, not the other way around. Speaking of which, it's time. We're going to jump the Teutons. We've turned invisible for a moment, our army, which is a bug I have experienced in this version, but we're going to jump them, easily drive them back. Didn't stack wipe them though. They still have 3,000 men, that's fine though. We'll also deal with these Livonian troops. Stack wipe them. So now the Teutons are basically all that's left. They're just their army and a few vassals, but to be fair, that was their whole army to start with. So we're just going to continue to sit and wait for them to walk on to the end of our spears. There they are. You can see their morale is actually pretty low because they're moving quite quickly through our realm. We just need their morale to get low enough that we can jump them. We could probably just jump them now though, honestly. So I think we will. We'll jump them here, defeat them. Still not a full stack wipe. We just haven't really got lucky. Oh, well, actually, we just full stack wiped them. Okay. So now there are no soldiers left on the Teuton side. Perfect. Now we're going to walk around and just blanket siege their whole nation. We're going to set our AI companions to go do that thing and disconnect from us. We're going to look around for provinces that don't have forts next to them, and we're just going to occupy them. We should be able to rack up enough war score just from occupying these provinces that they capitulate. Then we can do with them as we please. And there we go, our Duke died just as the Teutons reached 100% war score. They should capitulate literally any second now. Literally, we'll just wait a few days and they should say, yep, we can't win, and surrender. Yep, there we go, they've capitulated. Now we can decide what to do with them, and the answer of what to do with them is going to be complete annexation. We will fully annex the Teutonic Order, ending the Northern Crusade. This will result in every Teuton vassal becoming our vassal, which will give us complete control of the Baltic area. There is one thing of note though. When I was doing this during my testing, I suppose you'd call it, just to see how Lithuania worked, I found that I conquered all of the Teutonic Order and then got coalitioned by all of Europe and had to fight 3 coalitions back to back. We did win though, but I wasn't really sure why. Before I forget actually, let's sell off these captured soldiers that we've caught from the Teutons and their boys. But the reason why we're going to get coalitioned is because of this tiny province here, which is in, of course, the HRE that the Teutons control. We can solve it though. We'll make peace right now, annex that province. That's going to massively increase our antagonism with everyone, to the point where Poland wants to end our alliance. And then we'll sell this province. Does it matter who to? It's too bad no one has a core on this province, or I would have returned it to them in the peace deal instead of having to sell it like this. But either way, we'll sell it. That will remove a target from our back, because everyone will still hate us and will like to destroy us, but we're just, too far away for them to really consider or care about. Poland is likely to break our alliance though, but that's not a big deal. Poland loves us because we're their historical friend, so even if they break the alliance, they're unlikely to turn hostile, and we can just re-ally them at our convenience. Now, we've taken a lot of land now. We've of course, got all of the Teuton land under our control. A lot of this land is filled with other Baltic pops. Some of it has Prussian majorities, though, so we're going to start handing it out. We do have the vassals that we've taken from the Teutonic Order in the region. We could just give them the land to manage, but we don't really want to give them the land to manage if they're going to convert our glorious and lovely religious friends. So in regions that have majority Prussian, we're just going to hand them out to one of the existing vassals to manage. And regions that have majority of other cultures that aren't Prussian, we're going to set up custom subjects. Probably just fiefdoms. We do have a bunch of provinces here that are actually Polish cores and we can return to them. We're not going to though. It's not like Poland deserves to be given their cores back, right? There we go. We do have 2 provinces left. I'm thinking we hang on to these actually. Or maybe not. We could, of course we have 2 cabinet seats so we can integrate a single or 2 provinces at once. So maybe we'll hand out 1 more of them and we'll keep 1 for ourselves. That's probably the best of both worlds. Not that it really matters. As you can see, our control is pretty low and we don't have much proximity to our capital. Also, there's not really many cities around, so we can't throw down local governors, and our economy isn't really strong enough to do so anyway. But either way, now we're just going to play a bit passively. We're just going to kind of integrate all of our land and then start integrating our vassals in the short term. I actually think we're going to give out some of this southern territory to our vassal here. There's also something said for us releasing more vassals. We have quite a bit of territory that's too far away from our core to really be cored, and so is really more of a cost than a gain for us. We don't have to, but we're going to anyway. We're going to hand out the bits of land on our edges to our vassals that we already have at the start of the game. They'll probably make better use of the land than we will, and they will reduce our costs from getting rid of it. So this will be our core for the moment. We're now going to set our cabinet ministers. We want to get our war exhaustion down to 0 as fast as possible so we can get rid of that population malice and production efficiency malice. We'll also stop spending for our forts. We have quite a bit of money, so we could invest it. One of the problems I find with Lithuania, though, is our land is very underdeveloped with low population, as I was discussing. And when the Black Death rolls through, it's going to be even worse. We're going to end up with very little population that we can promote or really do anything with, which of course sucks. Which kind of puts me off investing in our country, at least right now. I kind of want to wait for the Black Death to happen, then we can spam settlements everywhere to increase population growth, to kind of rebuild back. That way we won't waste time building buildings that aren't going to make us much money in this early period because of our low population, which is then going to get even worse once the Black Death rolls through. Instead, we can just stockpile money for the post-Black Death. I'm not sure if this is the best strategy, but it's what I'm thinking from having played Lithuania a little bit. Since we handed out that province in Germany, the coalition is now no longer going to form against us. Poland is no longer unhappy with us. We are a little bit over our diplomatic capacity, but that was rather inevitable. We could just break our alliance with Poland whenever we feel like. It's not like we're directly threatened by anybody at this point. We've destroyed our first and largest enemy by destroying the Teutonic Order. For our first cabinet action, we don't actually have anything good here, unfortunately. So I think we'll just go for institute feudal levies, and then we'll likely use this to pass a few laws that we'd like to change. First thing we're going to do, well, there's quite a lot of things I want to do. I'd like to change our marriage law over to polygamy. I'd also like to change our distribution of power. We could also change our court customs to itinerary court and just kind of move our capital around as our rulers die. It doesn't really matter that it's in Vilnius right now. We also want to change our feudal de jure law, because, you know, cultural tradition is kind of worthless because it only increases the defense of the culture, whereas By Blood will help us integrate faster. So I think we'll do that first of all. The nobles just want us to improve the relationship with somebody, so we can do that. And then we'll pass another law. You know me, right? I'm looking at you, you're looking at me. I pretty much always go favour the elites, just because the elites pretty much pay no tax currently. And with favour the elites, they'll pay a little bit of tax. The nobles are, of course, our wealthiest estate at the moment, though our peasants aren't doing too bad, are they? Because of our lack of cities and towns, the burghers are really lagging behind, though. But another reason I like to switch to favouring the elites is because it increases the impact of their agendas in the parliaments, which again makes it very easy, especially when combined with the privilege we handed out, which was elite councils. It makes it very easy to get a lot of parliamentary power just from fulfilling the complaints of the nobles, which lets us basically just spam max tax and ask for larger levies and change any laws we like to every time we have a parliament. So we're going to switch over to favour the elites for now. We're actually going to wait now until that gets as completed as it can before we fulfill this noble agenda, because as you can see, it's ticking up in real time as this law comes online. The effects get amplified. So I'd like to wait till it's almost the end of the parliament. Have to be a little careful though, don't want to accidentally slip by. There we go. Now we'll address their spiritual concerns, which gives us the max. We could also support land focuses. It'll only give 37 though, but we'll do it either way. And then we'll hand out local tax. Well, we'll ask for more taxes, then we'll support land focus again. This is upsetting the other estates, but not by much though, so it's not a big deal. I think we'll leave it there for this parliament though. We'll end it on that note. We're now making a pretty penny. We probably want to rush our legitimacy up, while of course making sure we're not spending or losing money. We can improve relationships with the people that want to coalition us. That was probably worth doing. We also want to improve relations with all of the new vassals we've acquired. Here's an event. So this country down here we gain a claim on their throne. I was actually thinking, though, it might be possible to do a sort of personal union run as Lithuania, because you get a claim on these guys' throne. You can get a claim on the Muscovite throne via a certain event. But having actually tried it, it doesn't really work. Why? Because our great power status is so low compared to everyone else, because we're just a duchy, whereas these other guys are kingdoms, which gives them a much higher great power status. So, as I found in my personal run, where I was testing this, I'll defeat all these countries, form personal unions, and then I'll be the junior partner in those personal unions, making forming a personal union as Lithuania kind of worthless, at least until we become a kingdom or find some other way, usually through massive amounts of vassals, to increase our great power score. So we're just not going to bother, I think. It's just not a worthy use of our time attempting to put ourselves on the throne of all these nations. Sad, I know, but it is what it is. Poland did break their alliance with us. Not really sure why. I guess they still think we're likely to be coalitioned, even though we're not going to be. But as I said, it's not a big deal. We can just reacquire them as an ally if we need to, and honestly, we kind of don't want to, as we do need to conquer Poland to form the Commonwealth. Poland is kind of, in our way as nations go. We'd probably like to just eliminate them fully. Of course, as I mentioned though, for this early period, at least until post-Black Death, we're going to be staying on the down low, saving up money, improving relations, not doing anything too crazy, as we still have a lot of antagonism to shave off. Here's the Renaissance. We're going to grab the local army organizations just to buff us up even further. We're going to go admin, of course. Since we're the only pagan nation of our religion outside of a few of our vassals, the religious CB is going to be very useful for us. And of course, since we're largely a land-based nation, we want that local infrastructure bonus that we get from admin. If we were going to rush and form the Commonwealth and do nothing else, we'd probably go mill just to strengthen ourselves even further, then attack Poland and just hope we can conquer them and form the Commonwealth. It's not outlandish conquering Poland relatively quickly. I think it would take at least 2 wars, maybe 3. But we're not going to rush. I prefer building more sustainable nations than just rushing and destroying it. So we'll go admin as usual. Since Poland's gone as an ally, we're no longer over our diplomatic capacity, but we're going to grab the diplomatic capacity from expanded archives anyway, since we were already researching it. Now, since we have a lot of vassals, we want to rush down to get the diplomatic annexation cost, and we'll also grab the proximity cost while we're there. We'll also increase the noble satisfaction. We do have some of our own unique advancements from being Lithuania, like this warlord dukes here, which increases the size of our noble levies and gives us a little bit of monthly army tradition. So we'll grab him, and then we'll come down the other side of the tree and go straight for our religious CB. We've got a minor rebellion in amongst our vassals' land, but this was inevitable. We're likely going to see a few rebellions, and they're not really going to, mean anything. We didn't even raise our soldiers. As long as our vassals don't make the mistake of just white-piecing out their enemies, we shouldn't have any problem. We do have a lot of forts, and we can delete a bunch of them. We don't really need them now that we're, outside of war. I kind of like keeping them though, but it's probably better just to get rid of them. We'll keep the fort in our capital, and then we'll keep the fort in... I guess we'll keep both the forts. The fort in Minsk, as it's one of our only towns, and the fort in our other town here. We'll get rid of the rest though, which is just around 2. We do kind of want to keep forts because enemies that fight us take attrition damage against us. So forcing them to, stay in our nation sieging our forts will just damage them over time, which is pleasant for us. Here's a certain event I was kind of mentioning earlier. We can decide our stance between East and West, either pretending to play along, genuinely trying converting to Catholicism, or we can simply say we'll remain pagan. If we choose to pretend to play along, there's a follow-up event where we can get a royal marriage with Muscovy, which can potentially lead to a personal union. But as I said, even if we go through and do that, we'll just end up being their junior partner, so we don't want to bother. If we choose to stay pagan, it'll decrease the relationship of every Catholic around us by 100, but we don't actually have any Catholics around us outside of our vassals. And in fact, do we even have any? We have this one here, who's a Polish vassal, and then we have the Livonian Order. Those are the only nations around us that are Catholic. And I guess this little nation here, I'm not sure if we do share... Yeah, I guess we do share a border through this tiny little line, right? So they'll lose relationships as well, so we'll just say no. we're not going to convert. I'm sure the Pope will seethe about it, but that's just not my problem. We also have another event here based around our dealings with Russia. I'm not really sure what the point of this event is. I was thinking there was some sort of follow-up, but looking through the events, I'm not sure there is. We can choose to support some of the Russian states by just giving them money, which improves their opinion of us, or we can say no and lose legitimacy. We don't have any antagonism with any of these nations, so it doesn't really matter, or we don't need to increase our relationships to avoid a coalition or anything. So I think we'll just hand out 4 ducats to Slamensk, and then we won't lose any sleep over the affair. We've got another parliament available. Do we have anything good? Not really. So I think we'll just go with mountain charters. It'll give us a little bit of proximity spread for 10 years or so. Then we'll ask for additional taxes, do the serfdom movement. What other laws do we want to change? Let's go grab polygamy, so we can have lots of wives. We definitely need to pump up those numbers of Lithuanians. Then there's a few other laws we could switch out. We could switch out our education. We start with uneducated masses, which does improve the happiness of the nobles a little, but doesn't increase the max literacy for anybody other than nobles and clerics. I suppose it's not that big of a deal. Our peasants getting an extra 5 literacy isn't going to make a big difference, at least not in the short term. So it's something we could think about for a future parliament. We also have this inclusive levies law, which allows us to call more levies from non-culture pops, but we don't actually have that many discriminated pops in our nation. Basically, these are our discriminated pops. They make up around, I guess, nearly 4% of our country and not much else. So instead of sticking with that one, I prefer to switch over to our peasant levies, just increase our levy size even further. No, actually, we could grab the 50% to our nobles. And then since we're going to get another 50% once we research warlord dukes, we can kind of become like France and just have a lot of noble levies, right? That's one of the things that makes France so strong, is that they have lots of noble levies. At least in this version, I think that is changed in 1.3. But yeah, let's see if we can stack having lots of nobles. Let's go for noble levies. If you're curious how many levies we lost from switching that, the answer is we went down from like 8,100 to just 8,000, which is now increased back up thanks to the law for the nobles coming into effect. There's the Black Death shown up over there. It should soon enough arrive at our borders. Other nations could potentially escape the Black Death, but we're so close to where it spawns normally that it's not really possible for us to avoid it, sadly. Here's the Black Death. It's very little in our country right now, so it might just leave before it expands more. Nope, it's coming in, so we're going to segregate the infected, which reduces its effects a little bit. Since it's going to kill so many people, our priority is to reduce the effects of the disease as much as possible. We've had another revolt amongst our vassals. Again, we shouldn't need to deploy any troops. Our guys should just be able to deal with it. Yep, that's done. It's always scary. I always feel like, my vassal might just hand out their whole country to the rebels, because that is something that does happen. We're also going to move our court into hiding. We're going to keep an eye on the Black Death when it's just about... Oh, well, it looks like our duke just died. He didn't die to the Black Death, though, I don't think. So we're on a new duke. The moment the Black Death looks like it's going to leave our country, we're going to sponsor a mass forgiveness just to get back some of the legitimacy we spent segregating the infected and moving our court into hiding. Yep, there we go. Looks like the Black Death is exiting stage right, as it should. Please go away, Black Death. I don't really want to deal with you anymore. Almost. There's only a single province left with the Black Death, but it should be gone soon. As you can see, our population has kind of collapsed. We went from 800,000 down to 500,000. Even our capital Vilnius has less than 10,000 people in. And in fact, do we have a single province? Yes, we do. We have maybe one location with more than 10,000 people, and it's not much, only 10,200. So as I said, our population has just collapsed. And since our nation was already pretty divided up amongst itself, that being divided up amongst our realm, it's pretty devastating. Let's see, do we have a good parliamentary issue that could help with this? Probably not. So I guess we'll just go with military exercises. Then we'll we'll ask for additional taxes. And I think we're done changing laws for the moment, so we'll leave it as they are. We could switch out our feudal system for something better, but we probably need that food income for the moment, so it's nothing crazy. Now, we do have a lot of money, so we could build a bunch of things. We could import some gold into our market so we can throw down a royal court and a royal garden. Those are both useful. But as I said, we're going to spam the settlements. It's going to take all of our worldly wealth. and there's still quite a few that we do need to build. The hope is that our population can bounce back quickly, though, that's probably not going to happen. It's probably going to take a while. And here's another unique event for us, the Lithuanian Law. We gain access to a new privilege, I believe, yes, for the noble estate, which gives a few little bonus, nothing crazy though. I'm not sure if this event or this reform is required for a later event. It could be. Or we could get 7 stability for saying no. I don't think there's a follow-up event for grabbing this privilege. It's an okay privilege, I guess. I guess we'll grab it anyway. It's always nice to do things that are unique to our nation, regardless of who we're playing as. I don't think we'll hand it out just now though. A lot of our vassals have been around enough that we can now start integrating all of them. One I would like to integrate is Danzig here. Danzig is one of the few cities in the region. In fact, let's actually take a look. Danzig is one of 2 cities in the Baltic. The other bit, of course, being Riga. We would like to take both of them and then throw down local governors there. Since we're waiting on our vassal here to actually integrate Danzig, and it is going to take him a while, as we can see, we're going to leave him to it. The little nation that rules Riga, though, they've fully integrated their land because it starts integrated. I haven't actually been improving relationships with them, but we should. We could easily integrate them. We could have, but they're not actually our vassal. I forgot they're the Livonian vassal. So we could just integrate the Livonian Order. Probably want to anyway, but they're quite large of a vassal. It'll probably take a while. But let's at least improve our relationships and then we can think about our maneuvers with them. Alright, we've built every settlement we can do. Hopefully this helps our population recover. The settlements will automatically blow up once they've gained enough pop in the location. Here's another unique event that I don't quite understand, right? So we have the option to switch our succession law from the default best succession law in the game for a monarchy, arguably favoured son succession. We can switch that out and go to the normal cognatic primogenitor. I suppose, thinking about it, maybe if you're playing the marriage game and the marriage union game, you might want to switch over so that women can inherit. We aren't though, so of course our traditions have served us well, we will keep them. Here's another event. This lets us turn Vilnius into a city, which is pretty funny to think about when it's only got 8,000 people living in it. One of the smallest cities in the game, but it's a city nonetheless. All the settlements we have built have led to our culture, or our people at least, replenishing a little bit. Not to our pre-Black Death levels, but we've replenished a little bit. The reason I'm pointing that out is because we're about to integrate one of our vassals, the county of Lower Prussia. Our Danzigian vassal has also managed to integrate Danzig, as in the city, so we can integrate them and gain a core there. They still haven't integrated the countryside though, but that's not a big deal. They should be able to integrate it before we integrate them. What we're likely going to do is, once the integration of this nation finishes, we'll almost immediately start the integration of Danzig. Since we can control how fast they integrate based on our diplomatic spending, we'll probably just turn this down, or we'll keep an eye on their rate of integration, and if it looks like we're going to integrate them before they successfully integrate their land, we'll just turn down our diplomatic expenditure until they've integrated all their land themselves, because we don't want to really take it and then have to integrate it ourselves, right? That defeats the whole point of having a vassal. And there goes Lower Prussia. They're now once again part of us. Of course, we don't gain 4 cools here because the population is Prussian. The Prussians, though, are a brother culture to us, so we can accept them at low cost. We do need a little bit more prestige, though. And it will put us a little bit further over our cultural capacity. Not much, though. The real cost is when we absorb Danzig, and then we'll have to likely accept the Prussian culture to gain a full core there. We could avoid it though, we don't need to do it, but it will help with gaining control in this area once we throw down a local governor there. Taking a look at Poland, I was thinking about maybe attacking them, but they've fallen into a personal union together with Hungary and Croatia. So any war we fight with Poland, we're now going to have to fight Hungary too, which isn't necessarily insurmountable. In fact, Hungary has a coalition against it, though it's only got Bulgaria in. Unfortunately, we can't join, but there is something of note. We could think about potentially getting an ally with somebody like Austria. They do hate us because we're pagan, but we may be able to overcome that hatred. Bohemia, of course, though, would be a much more reliable ally. It's whether we're able to actually get them to consider allying with us. I thought we might have been done with the revolts, but looks like Danzig has had another revolt by their countryside. Again, they shouldn't require us to do anything. They should just be able to win the conflict with themselves and the rest of our vassals. So we'll just sit this one out. Yep, there we go. And there's our religious CB made available. So we can now think about going to war again. If we can gain an alliance with Bohemia or Austria, or potentially both, we could use them to help us fight the Polish. Whether we can get an alliance with either of those nations is kind of up in the air though. For some reason our newly born son is named Platypus. I'm not sure if this is a Lithuanian name. It feels like the sort of thing Paradox would do as a reference, right? Include a 0.0001 chance of children being named Platypus. But, I mean, it happened. I saw it. So if it is a reference, then I get it, I guess. And if you are Lithuanian and you're watching this, let me know if platypus is an actual name Lithuanians use. Somehow I doubt it. Somehow. But if I'm wrong, make sure to correct me. Maybe Lithuanians love being called platypus and naming their children platypus. Maybe I'm just out of touch. It's entirely possible. Well, another child called platypus. Maybe I am crazy. Maybe Lithuanians love being called platypus. Oh, it looks like Hungary is actually attacked into Bohemia. That's excellent. I guess we don't even necessarily need to get an alliance with Bohemia. I wish I'd already built a spy network on Poland or already fabricated a CB, because we could take advantage of this right now by jumping them. Unfortunately, we of course can't. We'll see about getting a spy network though, but it's likely the war's going to end before we get a chance to intervene. If the Bohemians do enough damage though, it could be possible that neither Poland nor Hungary will bounce back before we're ready to strike them. We'll just need to keep an eye on things. We've improved our relationship with Bohemia as much as we can. Problem is actually their low trust of us. They don't really trust us. Let's profess trust with them, I guess, just to buff it up a little bit. It is passively growing, so eventually it should grow to its normal sitting point, and we should be able to ally them when that happens. It just means waiting until that happens. Looks like the war's ended. Poland and Hungary took a real beating though. They have less than 5,000 levies between them. Or they have about 5,000. They're likely going to bounce back quite quickly though. Unfortunately, we can fabricate our CB right now. Let's fabricate it. Where should we set as the war goal? It depends where Poland has their forts. We can see that Poland's pretty undefended in this eastern side of the country. So we'll set there as our war goal. It is going to take around 2 years for the CB to come available, and they're going to replenish their levies in that time. We'll see though. I think we will fight them no matter what. The worst thing that happens is we probably need to make a white peace or something like that, right? But if not, we may be able to at least scratch out a victory of some kind. Our CB is available, but we're actually going to integrate Danzig in about a year, so we're going to wait for that to happen before we declare war. Not very much reason to wait, I just feel like I'd rather get them integrated than have them be there and have their army vanish when I may need them most. Unlikely though. We are going to use this parliament to ask for extra levies, ask for additional taxes, so that we can be at our strongest point when fighting our enemies here. We're also going to set all of our vassals to once again be supportive. We'll hope they support us, but we won't hold our breath. There goes Danzig. We don't have a physical connection to them just yet, so we can't throw down a local governor. We'd need to integrate this little nation here, or these two that are here. I do think this counts as a land connection. I'm not sure though. I'm not sure if it counts as like somewhere you could have a road through. Maybe. It definitely looks like a maybe. But either way, for now, let's declare war on Poland. We're very close in strength. Actually, we like Poland a little bit. Or they like us. Let's insult them. Now we'll declare war. We'll stay on the defensive. The hope would be is that we could get Hungary to peace out. They're not actually that enthusiastic about staying in the war already. They have -29 to fighting. So if we do enough damage, we could get them out, and then we could just focus on the Polish, who really shouldn't be a big issue once the Hungarians are gone. Things aren't going amazingly. Funnily enough, I haven't actually lost a single battle, but winning battles has cost me too many casualties, so we've been set back a bit. We can just rely on our attrition to cleave through them, though. That Hungarian army there, for example, is going to take heavy attrition, because not only are they getting attrition from our death god, but they're also cut off from their supplies. If they take enough damage, we may jump them. There's also a Polish army down there that's getting attritioned, but I think it's better for me to potentially grab this Hungarian force. It's a little hard though. I don't really want to jump that Polish force though. That's why Hungary was a little strong and I took a bit of casualties even though I won. They've got mercenaries, obviously. I completely forgot that mercenaries were a thing. Well, not that they were a thing, I just didn't expect them so early. The Hungarians have taken enough casualties here that we can probably jump them. Yes, all of their mercenaries have died, or at least maybe they fired them. They've only got 9 regular horsemen. How willing are the Hungarians to make peace? 26. A good fight like this should see them off. That was their whole army stack wiped. Are they willing to make peace? They are. I was thinking of something rather devilish. If we were to occupy enough Hungarian land, we could force convert them to our religion, which would result in their union with Poland breaking. You would say, oh, why don't you just enforce religion on Poland? Well, I can. If I do that, though, I'll lose my CB on Poland, which I suppose wouldn't be that big of a deal. But there's also potential that other nations would attempt to expand into Poland, because it would now be a heretic nation, and that's not really what we want. Like, we don't want Bohemia, for example, to start taking Polish land. But I think we'll just make peace with the Hungarians via the White Peace. Not much reason to drag the war out if we don't need to. We now do outnumber the Polish. They do have a few regulars, though. Not many, though. It'd be really nice if they were to go on and siege another fort that they would get attrition on. Doesn't look like they're willing to, though. Once we liberate this fort over here that they've occupied, in fact, we should just assault it right now because it only had 4 defenders. If they go back and attempt to siege that fort again, they'll get re-attritioned. Unfortunately, they're sieging this fort, which is ruled by one of our Catholic subjects, and so doesn't give them attrition. We could just jump them, I guess. We'll probably beat them. Let's do it. Yep, sawn them off. They're not stack wiped, though. Let's try and pursue them and eliminate them. Ah, well, looks like they got away. We've racked up a bit of war score now. Let's think about the peace deal. We're not going to be able to full annex Poland, obviously. It's going to be too expensive. As we can see here, around 200 war score, and that's not including their capital. So let's think about reducing that down. We could take something like this for 91 war score. It's a little much, though. How would the antagonism look? Poland would, of course, hate it, as would their vassals, as would some of Bohemia's vassals along the border. We do need to keep an eye out, right? Bohemia is on the border here. I think this might be... I mean, maybe it's not. Maybe it's fine, actually. It's mainly Hungary, these small nations here, and these 2 nations here that would get really offended by this. I'm not sure I want to share a border with Hungary, though. Maybe actually we do. Maybe we do want to share a border, because then we can attrition them when they invade. Even potentially build a fort up here to block their invasions. There are hills here, so that could be beneficial. Another thing we could do instead of taking the east of the country is taking the west of the country. Something more like this. This would result in more antagonism with the HRE states, specifically Brandenburg. Also, Bohemia would gain a lot of antagonism from this, which we don't want. I think we will go for the eastern strategy of something like that. Now we just need to get the war score. I'm not really sure where the Polish army is. Maybe they went all the way to Croatia when they retreated. Croatia is still in the war as they are in the personal union as well. So that's entirely possible. I suppose... Ooh, actually, there they are. They must have slipped past us. I guess we'll just nab them, defeated them. They're now willing to make peace. So I think we will make peace. We'll take southern or eastern Poland, as it were. We'll take a few ducats. I forgot to sell off all the people we'd captured, but that's fine, right? This is going to anger a lot of people and gives us a lot more land. We're going to release it as vassals. There's not really an alternative. With this patch of land, it's very far from our core. It's cut off quite a bit, as it would need to pass through this vassal. So we'll just divvy it out by creating some Polish nations here to govern the territory for them. I guess we'll shelve the idea of building a fort on the border with Hungary, at least for now. That puts us once again over our diplomatic relations limit, but it should be fine now, especially since we're starting to integrate a lot of these Teuton vassals that we gained. Surely our new Polish vassals won't cause any trouble. We will go on a bit of a diplomatic offensive to pacify the people that have become angered, but I honestly don't think it's too bad. It's just a lot of very small nations in the HRE, really. And they already hate us because we're the wrong religion anyway. Alright, I think we'll leave it here for now. Our name is kind of merging. You can see the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, it's merging with Poland. A sign of things to come, clearly. I'm not sure if I'll follow up this episode. I kind of intend it as a one-off, since patch 1.3 is right around the corner. I think we did pretty well subjugating the Teutons in one war, and now we're pretty well on our ways to conquering Poland. I would say 1, maybe 2 wars. In fact, the Polish Noble Rebellion is currently happening. If they win, they might put a different ruler on the Polish throne, which could lead to the Union breaking. Unfortunately, they hate us, so we can't offer them military access. If we improve our relationship with them, unfortunately they hate us even more once we remind them we exist. But if they would just ask for access, we'd give it to them. They would go over and potentially occupy Poland's capital and put a new king on the throne, which could break the Union, making conquering Poland even easier. But I doubt we can be that lucky, right? For now, I'll say thank you for watching. Do let me know what you think. I think I'll post the save in the comments, so if you want to continue this run for yourself, let me just make a save actually, so that there is something to continue with. So if you would like to continue the save for yourself, I'll post it down in the comments. This is of course on 1.2.5, the current version, so do keep that in mind. Though I said enough rambling from me, thank you for watching. I hope you did enjoy this video. Let me know what you think and or thought, and I'll see you next time.